Hello and welcome to COVID-19 Local Impact. I'm Dan Malta from the Your TV Peterborough studios. We'll start the show off today with a look at the local COVID-19 statistics. In the city and county of Peterborough, Hiawatha and Curve Lake First Nations, 59 confirmed positive cases, 1,674 confirmed negative, with 417 currently under investigation, 1 death. In the city of Kawartha Lakes, 117 confirmed cases, 8 hospitalizations, 80 resolved cases, 32 confirmed deaths, 28 in long-term care homes. As part of the 2 confirmed outbreaks, 1 death previously reported in Kawartha Lakes due to COVID-19 has now been deemed unrelated to the virus as test results from the deceased came back negative. And in Northumberland County, 13 cases with 1 hospitalization. Peterborough Mayor DIANE THERRIEN and County Warden J. Murray Jones are forming a task force to help discuss an economic recovery action plan once the pandemic eases. Mayor THERRIEN says business relief is part of the action plan.
So the economic is one piece. Certainly that's something that there's been conversations about for, over a month now. And there's been some members of the business community, along with Peterborough Kawartha's Economic Development, the Chamber of Commerce, the DIANE, those kinds of reps that have put forward some ideas to City Hall about ideas for relief for businesses. There are several other municipalities that have undertaken sort of similar task forces. So I know that in pulling this report together, Rhonda Keenan's team at Peakhead in particular did look at some of those, as well as what has been done in response to other sort of crisis situations in the past. Whether it was SARS back in the mid-2000s, or more often than not, it tends to be more of a natural disaster response. So that's something that we've been talking about, and obviously economic development is the city and the county work together on that front. I will say I've also been looking at other aspects of recovery. So I have asked councillors about wanting to participate in sort of a social focused task force as well as an environmental one, and all 3 of those obviously would have overlap and have some connectivity, but there would be some specific recommendations coming out of those 3 sort of silos. And again, those are things that we are going to be looking at, because we're coming out of this crisis and we're going to be looking at what is, as we've talked about, like the new normal. How do we change and hopefully try to improve our economic situation to make it more resilient going forward, to make it more green and sustainable? And then how do we tie that in with the well-being of folks in our community, whether it's the most vulnerable or folks that are precariously employed? So we're going to be talking about that at our special general committee meeting on Monday. And I've also had several conversations with councillors about tying in that social and environmental piece as well, because those are, I think, all related.
Detective Constable Keith Calderwood says there are frauds and scams to watch out for during the pandemic, some old and some new. The Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre website is an excellent resource to educate yourself on recent scams and to report an incident. You can visit the website at antifraudcentre.ca.
There's people who are receiving emails or text messages from people posing as the Canadian government, asking you if you need the Canadian Emergency Response Benefit or if you need the Canadian Emergency Care Benefit. And if you do, click on this link. And when you click on this link, they're going to ask for a lot of personal information. They may even ask for your bank account. So we need to be really, really careful with people reaching out to us during this pandemic. I'm not sure, but from what I understand is people who have tried to reach out for the CERB benefit, they've taken hours or even days to actually get through to someone because they're so inundated right now. And so I don't think anybody from the Canadian government is reaching out to people to make sure you need it. So we really need to educate ourselves. The first thing we have to realize is we're all in lockdown right now, Mary. So we're all near our phones and we're all near our computers, the 2 top ways that people can get scammed. So we have to really be vigilant that just because something comes through that looks like it's might be beneficial to the family, we have to really make sure that we know who's actually sending that and who we're talking to.
I've heard from many people that during the pandemic, they've actually had a lot less calls saying that they've won a cruise, or saying that your long lost uncle has left you some money. There's been actually a decrease in that sort of communication. Do you know why?
Those are the original scams, and they know, for the first of all, for the trip, no one's going to be traveling for the next little while. I don't imagine through this anyway. But because there's so many new ones, because people are going to phone you, and if you donate some money to a fake charity, they're going to offer you cleaning supplies. They're going to offer you masks and gloves to protect yourself. There's companies that are phoning to say that they will come and clean your house, you know, for a certain cost, so that you just have to pay up front, and we'll come and clean your house in case you fear that you've had someone who has had the COVID-19 inside your house and your cars, etc. So we need to be really cautious, because anybody who wants you to pay up front probably won't show up to your house to clean. So there's people who are going door to door saying that there's a vaccine, and first, you know, we can protect you from this COVID-19, and that just hasn't happened. All we do have to do is keep up with what's happening with the government. They're updating us all the time. The provincial government's on there almost daily, and the federal government's on there almost every other day, giving us new updates. So, you know, if you're sitting at home and you have nothing to do, at least pay attention to those, because they will keep us updated for sure.
Ontario parks are closed to the public until April 30th, and this will likely be extended. Your TV's Mary Tendeshat speaks with MPP Dave Smith, who says they're aware people want to enjoy the great outdoors, but the province has made adjustments to overnight camping for the rest of the season.
A lot of people want to go back to the parks right now, and we totally understand that. You've been cooped up for a long period of time, about 5 weeks now. Ontario parks offer a great experience for people, but with COVID-19, with the challenges that we're facing with it, we just can't open up the park. We can't have people coming to it. Because of that, anyone who wants to cancel their reservation for the rest of this year can do so without any penalties. If you go to the Ontario Parks website, you're able to go in, cancel your registration. You will not be charged a penalty whatsoever. If we get to a position where COVID-19 has cleared up and we're able to reopen our parks, we'd welcome having everybody to come back to it. But right now, because there is so much uncertainty, we want to make sure that anyone who uses the park, who has a reservation, knows they can cancel the reservation. There's no penalty for it. We're not going to hold it against you. And we really would like you to come back again once COVID-19 is over.
Has there been any movement on when the parks would be open, even for day use, not overnight camping?
We're seeing a reduction right now in the number of infections. It's referred to as the R value, or the R number. In some parts of Ontario, it's below 1, and that means that the virus is dying off. In some parts of Ontario, it's still above 1.5. Until we get to a spot where consistently across all of Ontario, the virus is dying, we're not in a position where we can talk about when we're going to be opening up things. It really is going day by day and week by week. Hopefully in 2 weeks' time, we're in a much, much better position than we are today. And I can tell you that today we're in a much better position than we were 2 weeks ago. It really comes down to people self-isolating, people following the distancing rules, staying at home, and washing your hands. I know it's been hard, but the more that you do that, the quicker we can get past this virus.
With more than 100 long-term care facilities in the province suffering a COVID-19 outbreak, MPP Smith adds the province has made some changes to how they are testing, and the changes have already started to take effect in Peterborough.
Our testing protocol has changed. Every resident in a long-term care facility is going to be tested for COVID-19. Every staff member, every volunteer, anyone who comes into the facility is now going to be tested for COVID-19. That testing has already started. Here in Peterborough Public Health, they're the ones who are organizing it, and they have started that process. We have 3 long-term care facilities that have already been tested completely, and they're working their way through all of the others. We have a few outbreaks, about 5 of them, where it has gotten fairly severe, and we have staff members now who are infected with COVID-19. Premier Ford has announced that he's asked the Prime Minister for help from the Army. We'll have medical professionals and people who know how to deal with situations at long-term care facilities come from the Army now to spell off some of those staff members. to make sure that we are adequately staffed at those locations. It's not just the nurses and the PSWs. There's also cooks and chefs and maintenance staff. We have to make sure that all of our long-term care facilities are in the best position possible. This disease can really hurt our seniors, and we're doing everything that we can to protect them.
May 1st means rail trails in Kawartha Lakes are open to motorized vehicles, but not this year. Kawartha Lakes Mayor Andy Letham says they will be postponing the opening due to the pandemic.
We are not going to open up our rail trail on May 1st to motorized vehicles. Usually that opens on May 1st, so we're going to keep that closed. It's obviously still open for walking and exercising, as are most of our passive parks. But I did want to say that we are targeting May 12th as a date based on the provincial state of emergency. And we're going to do a review at that time on our boat ramps, our landfills, and the rail trail, opening it to motorized vehicles. I do want to stress this is a target date only. We're just going to sort of keep that in mind. These are outside activities. These are local decisions that we can make at a local level, but it will depend on the provincial state of emergency and our local state of emergency as well.
City Hall in Lindsay will be showing support to the tragedy in Nova Scotia and also support for the local citizens who have been affected by the pandemic.
On Friday night, tomorrow night, we're going to turn on our blue lights at City Hall on Friday evening for a week in tribute to our friends in Nova Scotia and the senseless tragedy that took place out there. So we're going to do that on Friday. We're also going to lower our flags at City Hall and Bob Cajun Service Center on Monday until the state of emergency is over, again in recognition of what's taken place in Nova Scotia, and obviously in recognition of everyone that who we have lost to the pandemic here in the city of Kawartha Lakes.
As COVID-19 local impact continues on your TV, we'll have an update from Northumberland. Welcome back to COVID-19 Local Impact on your TV. I'm Dan Malta. One of Northumberland Hills Hospital's Foundation's most popular events is changing with the times. This year's edition of Northumberland's biggest coffee morning is now going virtual due to COVID-19. Your TV's Mark Rockburn catches up with the Foundation's Special Events Officer, Natasha Jacobs, to find out how people can get involved this year.
I know it's a bit of a change for everybody to be home, and as you can see, we're doing this interview on Zoom, one of the apps that everybody's sort of starting to use to connect with their families and colleagues and having work meetings over. And these are the type of creative and innovative ways that we're hoping that the community will get involved with this event. So biggest coffee morning in the past, as you said, take place in different homes and different restaurants, and this community, as always, joined and really came together in a big way to support our hospital. And we're hoping that that doesn't change. There's lots of things that you can do. We've seen people get super creative over this time. I think that's something that I love seeing, is how different businesses are getting really creative about putting their products to the community. A lot of restaurants and small businesses finding creative ways to do that, and we're looking for the same thing for this event. I've seen a few things like paint nights that you can do virtually, yogas that you can do virtually, dinner parties on Zoom or on different apps like House Party or even Facebook Messenger. And then, as you know, our critical mission is to support the hospital and the equipment there. We're asking that you ask your guests to donate to the hospital.
Natasha, can you give us a little history on how for the people that may be watching this but may not know how the Northumberland's biggest coffee morning got started?
Sure. I would say a lady in the community had heard about it. I believe in Europe is where it really started, and it was called the world's biggest coffee morning, something along those lines. And she sort of brought the idea to us in memory of her friend. And it caught on, and it has grown and grown. And I believe that we're in maybe the 15th year, about the 15th year of it. And yeah, each year over 30 to 40 parties happen throughout this community. It's quite astounding. Some people have been having parties from the very beginning, and those people, you know, they came out right away saying, what's happening this year? We know that there's going to be a change in the way we do it, but we still want to participate. We still want to do this. And that's why I think we made the decision to not cancel this, but find a creative way to do it.
So we got the background on how it started. Why don't you give us the history on when it's going to be this year and how people can get involved?
Absolutely. This year, it's going to be the entire month of May. So we've put out some news releases and things like that to give you a little bit of information on how you can get involved. But you can go to our website if you need any further information at nhhfoundation.ca. Under the events tab, there's going to be a little area where you can fill out your information. You're going to fill out whether you're going to host a party or whether you're going to join a party. And essentially, when you join a party, you're just donating to the foundation.
Scott CHERWATY, a coach in the Peterborough Minor Baseball Association, joins us to discuss the likelihood we'll see any baseball played this summer and what impact there will be on local athletes.
I've been on, been getting different emails and been on some conference calls with different things that with regards to Baseball Ontario, and really it's Baseball Canada right now because everyone's in the same boat right now. From a standpoint, everything's on hold, no social distancing. So Baseball Ontario's come out, basically said nothing till May 31st. Unfortunately, I know other organizations or cities that was like Whitby has nothing going on till end of August opening. So all their parks are shut down as of then, as well as other places throughout are different times, different changes. I think everyone's really, you're guessing, to be honest. You know, Doug Ford came out yesterday and said, you know, some things by May 24th might open, but he was very adamant that it's not going to be a fast process. From a standpoint of development, everyone loses a year if there's no season. So, and losing a year of full development is can have a huge bearing on several athletes, any sport, especially kids that are looking to go on for scholarships and everything, because you're losing that game situation, regular practices on that's not happening. A lot of kids are training, they're doing things within the home framework, within, again, social distancing. Kids that have brothers that are similar ages or close or whatever, they can work out and do things together because they're within the one household. I know I've played catch with one of my sons. My sons have been out playing catch as well. But again, it's limited to that point. You can't go to parks. You can't go, you know, unless you got a batting cage in your backyard. Some kids have nets, batting nets and tees and all that, which I've seen videos and been emailed on different things. Yes, they're doing stuff like that. Again, the keen kid that really is into the sports will do that every day. The other kids that are, you know, they're yes and no, they're probably not doing that every day because they're just missing that excitement of, you know, seeing their buddies being out there working together. It's just not happening, and they get bored basically from doing that. You can play video games too, but I strongly encourage them to go out and do whatever they can.
Scott also comments he believes the Peterborough Minor Baseball Association will survive this as they haven't had to commit too much money ahead of the season and that registration has been delayed until May 15th. One more note from Scott. He adds that all national championships have been cancelled across Canada, which will likely mean no baseball in 2020. Today, we also hear from MPP David Piccini, Port Hope Mayor Bob Sanderson, and Cobourg Police Chief Paul Vandegraft to get their reactions to trout season opening as normal.
You know, this is one where I've got to say, I wrote to the minister. I've spoken with my colleagues. I fundamentally believe that there should be a pause in our zone. I'm more responsible angling and hunting, obviously, but with respect to the specific fishing season in our zone, because of the uniqueness of scores of people coming from GTA. And I can point to proof points, obviously, every year. I grew up on the Ganaraska. I grew up on Ontario Street, was always going down, and I've been in Float Your Fanny many years in a row. So I know just after Float Your Fanny comes fishing, and there's too many people. It poses a fundamental health risk. The ticketing that already went on at the ladder points to people having come in from Toronto, and we don't need folks coming down from Quebec either.
Our specific concern in Port Hope is that the fact that this beautiful Ganaraska River, which is a good fishing river, runs right through the middle of our urban area, and it attracts hundreds of people. Right. And there's just absolutely no way that we could convince ourselves that we could keep our citizens safe and still allow people to, fish along the river and to camp and to do what is normal. It's fun and we like it. But in this case, our absolute number one mandate is to keep our citizens safe. We did not feel and still do not feel that that's possible if we have a huge influx of people from all over Ontario, particularly maybe from the larger urban centers such as Toronto, coming in from Quebec. It's just fact that we did not feel we could, adequately manage the distancing that our enforcement people could manage. Hence the request from the ministry. They did not move forward. We understand and accept that. That wasn't the issue. Our requirement then was, how do we protect our citizens? And this is the best way we can do it. The Ganaraska Conservation Authority owns a significant amount of property along the river, as does the municipality. So we have restricted that from public access, so people won't be able to reach it. We've communicated that broadly throughout the province and through the ministry, through the federations. So people should realize that there's actually no point in coming to Port Hope at this point in time and lining up and fishing.
I've said this, and I will continue to maintain this to you and others, that we can't legislate common sense, Mark. And I'm a firm believer. I mean, government has taken swift and strong action relative to COVID-19. My strong message to folks living on Rice Lake and others, we live in rural Ontario for the precise reason of being able to enjoy the beautiful surroundings that we live in. While it's very difficult to be at home during these times, we want to get through this. We want to start easing this list of when we flatten the curve and get back to normal. And getting back to normal doesn't mean calling your friends in Toronto and inviting them to use your private boat launch or inviting anybody outside of our community. It involves staying at home. It involves lending a helpful hand, bringing a meal to someone in need, and going out for your groceries and looking out for your loved ones.
Obviously, the provincial regulations are in place. The Ministry of Natural Resources will be in town enforcing all of those rules. We will be present to ensure that all bylaws are being adhered to, and we'll also be in presence to ensure that the emergency measure laws and conditions of the state of emergency are enforced. There will be zero tolerance. So moving forward, if there are grounds for us to actually charge somebody, we will be charging people in this.
It is National Volunteer Week, and as a part of National Volunteer Week, today we'll be drawing names for a prize. The names I'll be drawing from are names of Your TV volunteers. The more hours they spent on our productions, the more chances they have to win the prize, a 50-inch TV. One winner will be from our Peterborough-Lindsay pool, the other will be from our Northumberland pool. So I'm just going to get into it here. Winner from Peterborough, Paul Rellinger. And now from Northumberland, York Bell Smith. Okay, so that's the show for today, and we did not plan this, no coincidence. We have a message from York Bell Smith, a volunteer I certainly miss working with York. He and I call Cobourg Cougars games together on the OJHL tonight. Here's what he has to say. For Your TV, I'm Dan Malta.
Hi, I'm York Bell Smith, host of Municipal Matters here on Your TV. Well, times are certainly different. I'm here in my home studio in Brighton. Haven't been into the station in Cobourg in quite some time, since just after March break because of the COVID-19 pandemic. Certainly missed coming into the Your TV studios, having a chance to sit down every month on Municipal Matters with Bob Sanderson, Mayor of the Municipality of Port Hope, John Henderson, Mayor of the town of Cobourg, and of course our great community partners like the United Way, chatting with Bobby Dawson. We didn't get a chance to share the news on Municipal Matters that they exceeded their goal that they set of $850,000. Congratulations and thank you to everybody that donated and worked so hard on this campaign. One of the good things that's come out of this actually is it's showing the true spirit of giving in the community of Northumberland. Not that we don't see it all the time anyway, but the United Way started a COVID-19 community fund and so far has raised over $15,000. All that money is staying local right here and is helping so many different organizations. Also miss talking to the guys around the table in the media scrum, talking about the important topics going on throughout Cobourg, Port Hope, and all of Northumberland County. We're flattening the curve in Ontario. That's definitely a good sign. We're starting to see some light at the end of the tunnel, but we got to keep doing what we're doing. We're hearing all the warnings now about a possible second wave. We definitely want to do what we can to avoid that. It's going to be a different kind of summer for sure with all events that have been canceled. We'll be spending a lot more time with our families and getting to connect, which has been really cool. Connecting with some old lost friends, haven't been in touch with in a long time. Now all of a sudden video messages are popping up on your phones and you're getting to connect with some people. So there's a good side to that as well. It is kind of sad that you can't volunteer or do most of your regular volunteer gigs on this National Volunteer Week. But we will be back at it for sure. And there are some volunteer opportunities out there as well, even during the pandemic. If somebody wanted to volunteer and cut my hair, that would be fantastic. Thank you very much. We'll see you on the other side.